Phil, last couple of weeks, first down's been kind of a boom or bust play for you guys. There's been some 15, 20-yard gains and a lot of zeros. Just how do you get that even back out from how it was maybe in the middle of the season?
So P and 10 and first down in general is probably a down we've been pretty good at most of the year. You know, we've eliminated or minimized sacks and TFLs. You know, it's probably been the biggest area of improvement with our offense from last year to this year. So we're not putting ourselves behind the chains as much. It has been a little bit more difficult the last couple weeks. Part of that is, you know, who you're playing. You know what I mean? That has a lot to do with it. Penn State had a phenomenal defensive line, and that was part of the issue. Last week, I think, you know, we had some opportunities in the run game, and you know, in the quick passing game, I think that we missed on a few first downs, and then that, you know, that puts you in second long instead of being in second non-obvious, and it's, you know, it's something we talk about every week, but I feel good going into the Oregon game here with our plan, and you know, hopefully we get that rectified.
To the left, coach.
Well, you've obviously been in a number of places, had success along the way. Have you been anywhere where it's been perhaps this much of a challenge to get to the level that you want, you know, 2 years into a system?
Not in a while. Not in a while. I mean, it's a great conference, is why I came, right? Great coaches we battle against every week, and some really good talent, and there's, you know, it's a heavy conference from top to bottom, right? There's really no bottom feeders in this deal. You know, you're battling every single, but I think, you know, you're here, you're hired for a reason. Typically things aren't pristine when you arrive, and so right now, these last 2 years, Fick has a plan and a vision, and he's laid it out. And sometimes trying to get to where you want to get to, we all want that to happen tomorrow, right? But it's a process, and it takes a little time. And I said this last year, and I'm going to say it again: when you are building something to sustain success, it's harder. You know, it's more difficult to do that. You know, you can go a certain route with regards to upgrading or changing your roster and get an immediate answer for that particular year, or you can build something that you want to sustain some success over the long haul, which is the goal here, and it's what Fick wants. And so we're grinding through that, and we do that every day and every week and every game. And you know, I think we're progressing just like we wanted to, but you know, we're in a situation right now where we have an opportunity this week, and I think the energy and the morale and the grind and the work ethic is where we want it. And I think we had a good off week, and I think this week's gonna be really good for us, and I think we'll be ready to play, you know, come Saturday. And really, that's the only focus. You know what I mean? It's just the next game. It's trying to get better week to week, and as hard or as easy as things get at times, I don't think you don't want to waver from that process, and that's really where we are right now. We played what? We played a number 2 team in the country, played a number 3 team in the country, now we're playing the number 1 team in the country. We've all been fired up about it. We've all given it our best effort, and that's not going to change here going into the Oregon game.
Mark, right in front of you.
Phil, Trech had the big game against Purdue, and since then he's had some moments, but probably hasn't been consistently involved. So I guess my question is, just what are some of the challenges to kind of continue having him regularly involved in plays and in game plans? Not necessarily game plans, but what are some of the challenges of just kind of getting him and keeping him involved regularly?
So you could probably ask that question about 4 or 5 of our guys, right? We want to get Trech more involved. I think you'll see him on the field with Will Pauling a little bit more. You know, the fact that they play the same position is a good thing, because you can't play it at our tempo and with the number of plays in the game and have one guy out there the entire time playing at a high level. So the fact that we can roll through the 2 of them, but it does minimize in the game overall if 2 of them aren't going to be on the field at the same time. So that's going to be one of the ways that we are able to get more total game reps for both Will and for Trech. But you could ask the same question about, Vinny Anthony and Tucker Ashcraft and Darian Dupree too. So that all of those guys are guys that we sit and talk about with regards to trying to scheme how we wanna and when we wanna get those guys out on the field and in the game plan for that particular week.
And quick,
Oh, go ahead.
just a quick follow-up as far as Will and Tretch on the field together. It might be obvious, but what do you like about having that combination on the field at the same time?
You know, for me, I just struggle having really big potential playmakers on the sideline. You know, and what happens is if you leave one of them out there the whole time, then you minimize the return you're getting on them. I mean, I always say like A.J. Brown for us played 82 reps a game first 3 or 4 weeks of the season. You know, and he was averaging, I know these numbers because I tell the story all the time, he's averaging like 87 yards a game and a touchdown a game, you know, and 6 or 7 catches a game. But he was playing tired and it was fatiguing, and it wasn't, we weren't getting the best out of him on every down. It wasn't his fault. We weren't giving him a rest. You know, and so we started playing Elijah Moore, and we cut A.J. Brown's reps down to 53, 54 reps a game. Guess what happened? A touchdown and a half a game, 128 yards a game, 8 catches a game. The productivity went up because he's playing fresh and at 100%. And then you're getting that same type of effort from his backup. And that's no different here. We want to get the most out of Will. We want Will to be fresh when he's playing. We want Tretz to be fresh when he's playing. Right now, we'd like to increase the number of reps that those two are playing in a game. And to do that, we're going to have to, at times, put both of them out on the field. And so that's the plan here during this home stretch of the season.
Steve and then Zach.
They've done a really good job of avoiding interceptions last year and the few starts he had. Just when you look at these interceptions he had this year, is there a common thread to them, or what do you think explains just the...
You know, I had to go back and watch the last 4 games, and it really comes down to an area where Braden is actually very good. Yeah, and I'm on record as saying Braden is a phenomenal student of the game. He's a junkie. He knows it. He, from a check and a decision-making standpoint, gets us into better plays on numerous occasions, readily every single week. But the interceptions are decision-making issues also. And you know, we talk about protecting the football every day in practice. We grade ourselves every day in practice at quarterback. It's our goal in practice and in the game. We don't want a defender to touch the football at all. You know, when you're throwing the ball against man coverage, it's about ball placement. And quarterbacks that can't place the ball versus man coverage, which really means an open receiver, is about that much. He's separated very, very little from a man coverage guy. And in my opinion, that's what separates guys that can throw the ball and succeed in the NFL and who can't, is whether or not they could beat man coverage with their throw. In zone, it's more about throwing to space and getting open in grass, and there's more decision making to be made there because you've got to be aware of everybody that's around the route you're throwing to. And we've had a few mistakes there, and it's cost us with some interceptions, and so that's our emphasis again this week, and we've got to make sure we protect it against Oregon.
I was gonna ask about the interceptions, but with where Mabry's at, coming along as the backup, how has he looked the last few weeks? And obviously when the starting quarterback struggles, everyone wonders about the backup.
Mabry is progressing. I think we're not at a point right now where we're going to do anything. I think Mabry's progress, along with Milos's progress, is part of that process I was talking about early on. You know, you want to put them out there when they're absolutely ready to roll, and I don't know if Drake wants to hear this or if anybody would agree with me, but I was actually hoping Drake May, our quarterback from North Carolina, would not be the starter this year. I was hoping to get a year of being the backup and learning and getting used to the speed of the game and all that, just because, and it has nothing to do with him personally, just because I think having that time to go through the process and prepare and understand what the speed of the game is like here, there, wherever, is important. And sometimes you can put those guys out there at any position, but particularly quarterback, before they're ready, and it will hurt their development. And so we're going to build these guys and develop these guys and put them out on the field when they're ready to roll. And I think Mabry's he's on schedule, and he's in that process right now. And I think when he's ready to go, you'll see.
On the left, right here, Coach.
We'll kind of piggybacking off the question about Mabry, just be, being a quarterbacks coach and offensive coordinator, this day and age with quarterbacks and progression, development, just how do you, even just recruiting, I know you can't talk about any verbal commits right now until they sign, but just how do you approach trying to look at the position while in the midst of a season like you are, still 3 games left, but then trying to look at the future and just where you're at in the quarterback room and if there's any changes that are needed?
Well, because of the nature of the program, I mean, of the position, it's a very volatile, room right now. In the past, literally 4 years ago, you'd bring in a guy in each class, and you'd have 4 scholarships on the roster, and you'd try to bring in a high-end walk-on, and sometimes he'd surprise you, and sometimes he wouldn't, and that was a nice, healthy room. And in my opinion, if you're doing your job, you're developing guys, and then when they go out on the field, they're ready, right? And that's the process that Mabry's in right now. The difference right now is that room is a lot more volatile, and the portal, even recruiting the high school kids, is obviously, as you all well know right now, has become a lot more competitive, and it's a much different than it used to be. And I would like to say that there's some worth in the minds of recruits and parents with regards to development. Coming out of high school and going to one place and then moving to a second place and then moving to a third place is not the best process for developing yourself over the long haul. So you'd hope, you want to find some guys that appreciate development in the process, and you get them in early and they want to stay, they want to stick, and they want to develop. And then they have confidence that you're going to put them on the field when they're ready to go, and that equals some success. So that's what we're looking for in the high school realm. When you don't have that, or you don't have the numbers you need, it kind of forces your hand, and you've got to recruit the portal. And so it's a forever changing situation at every position, but particularly at quarterback. So as things change, you address what the landscape looks like, you talk about what your needs are, and then you gotta go after what you need. And that's probably a little more generic answer than you wanted, but that's the truth. What will a quarterback room at a university somewhere out on the West Coast look like a month and a half from now when the season's over? I have no idea, but I guarantee it's gonna be different than what it looks like right now. And so you just have to address the landscape the way it is, talk about what your needs are, and then you gotta make some moves to go after getting what you need.
Okay, time for 2 more. Zach. With the quarterbacks, and you already have, I know you can't talk about specifics, but when you have a quarterback already in a recruiting class, and you start to recruit another one, how difficult is that to manage, the balance to manage there?
In my opinion, and this is just the way that I think we all operate here, is you just gotta be honest with players. I mean, you just have to be honest with them, and in a perfect world, I'd love to recruit one guy at every class, and you have one representing all 4 classes, and they're all developing, and the better ones are gonna play. And I mean, that's just the way it works in every room, at every position. But I think you have to be honest too, because as you lose a guy at any position in any room, you've got to replace him. And then the decision becomes, do you want to do that in the portal, or do you want to do that with a high school kid? And so I think that's the biggest question all the time in every position room, as somebody gets drafted, as somebody graduates, as somebody gets hurt and can't return, as somebody decides that this isn't the place for them, they're never gonna play here, and maybe they should drop down a level where they can go compete. There's all kinds of different reasons why you lose guys in rooms. We all know that. As that happens, you have to fortify the room. And so I think you just have to be honest with guys with regards to what your philosophy is with recruiting. And at the end of the day, I have found over 35 years that being honest with parents, being honest with players, is the best way to handle anything, and I don't know that that's going to change here or with me anytime soon.
Last one, Rohan.
Phil, you've dealt with substantial injuries, both at the quarterback position and in skill positions in both your years here. Have you found it maybe tougher than you've imagined to adapt your system against these style of defenses in your 2 years here than maybe you expected when you came?
Well, I would say two things to answer your question. One, I don't think any coach is comfortable when you have as many injuries as we had last year, right? And then we lost our starter this year in Tyler Van Dyke. So I would say that as you lose players, you know, it's next man up, you gotta go to the next guy. There's no other choice, which goes back to what I've been saying here, and that is development is pivotal. You know, and if you're coaching the starter and you're not coaching the backup or the third stringer the same way, then they're not gonna develop the way they need to. So it's as pivotal in my mind with the quarterbacks to develop 2, 3, and 4 every single week as much as it is the starter, because at some point you could be one injury away, one play away from playing the next guy, right? So offensively, we have equal reps for the ones and the twos just about all the time, so that the twos get the development that they need. And then the other thing I would say to you with regards to the offense is the offense is not a system that's rigid and is going to force players into the system. Just my personal opinion is that's not a really good way of doing it. You want to, and I've said this numerous times, the system is flexible enough that we're always going to promote the strengths of the players that we have, right? One of our strengths is the offensive line. We lean on our offensive line every single week right now, okay? And then there's some things we do well at the skill positions with our running backs and our receivers and our tight ends. So we try to put those strengths, employ those strengths in the game plan each week and take advantage of those things. As you lose a player and bring in a different player, if the strengths are different, then you're gonna cater your game plan a little bit differently because you've gotta use what you have. And so that's one of the reasons I like what we do on offense, because we can emphasize any aspect of the system and we can de-emphasize any aspect of it if it's not what our players do well. And that will never change with regards to what we're doing.
Coach, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.